So welcome back to the channel, and today I wanted to talk about CJ Stroud and Trevor Lawrence. And these are two quarterbacks that are almost certainly going to be leading the AFC South for years to come. Anthony Richardson, of course, for the Colts might end up in that mix as well. Will Levis, I have my doubts about just because of the team around him, but Will Levis also then has an opportunity to join the mix of a division that's made up of entirely young quarterbacks, all of which bring something to the table. And of course, time will tell whether they all pan out or not. But right now, the two clear-cut best quarterbacks in the division, Trevor Lawrence, CJ Stroud. And with this week, the Jaguars, for the most part, wrapped up the AFC South with some caveats, obviously. There's still a lot of football to play, but they now have a 2-game lead over the Houston Texans. Because of divisional record and splitting the series with the Texans, it looks like the Jaguars also then hold the tiebreaker, meaning the Texans effectively have to make up 3 games in the remaining 6 based on the Jaguars' strength of schedule, or rather the schedule remaining, with really the only tough game being against the Baltimore Ravens, now that Joe Burrow's been hurt, as well as Watson for the Browns. It looks like the Jaguars have effectively wrapped up the division for this year. But then looking forward, a lot of pundits have been talking about, while yes, Trevor Lawrence at this moment might still be better than CJ Stroud, and I actually think he is at this moment better than CJ Stroud. A lot of pundits are talking about how if you could only pick one, CJ Stroud would be the one you would go with. And before I get into why the comparison between Lawrence and CJ Stroud is a bit of an apples to oranges situation, let me clear this up right now. If I were a GM and it was some sort of fantasy draft and Patrick Mahomes was off the board and I was effectively given a decision, and maybe some other quarterbacks are off the board too, like Joe Burrow, but if we got to the point where it was between Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud, I actually think I would go with CJ Stroud for the future of the franchise. But it's an apples and oranges situation, and I don't think it's a completely fair comparison to look at it that way, because CJ Stroud is putting up outstanding numbers as a rookie, numbers that we have never seen before. He's almost certainly going to top the rookie record books for most yards ever as a rookie. He may become the first rookie quarterback to ever lead the NFL in passing yards. But this is the thing. His numbers are spectacular and do demonstrate that he clearly belongs in the NFL. But that offense is entirely reliant on CJ Stroud being spectacular because it doesn't have a ton of fantastic weapons outside of the quarterback. And don't get me wrong, the receivers have stepped up in a big way. Obviously, you don't throw the ball to yourself. So CJ Stroud has needed receivers, and they've stepped up in a big way. But it's CJ Stroud that has driven the development of the Texans offense. By contrast, Trevor Lawrence is one piece of many really, really good pieces on the Jaguars offense. Travis Etienne, at any moment, when he's given a lane, can bust a huge run. A lot of Trevor Lawrence's passes that end up being big gains, there are a lot of shorter passes that just have a fantastic run after the catch. Some of the ones that come to mind immediately: Christian Kirk's 40-yard touchdown to win the game against the Saints. Any one of those screens against the Texans that was just a short screen that then went for 30, 40, 50 yards. Trevor Lawrence is getting a lot out of the run after the catch, and also, and this may be the most important thing, Trevor Lawrence is playing with a lot of leads this year. They're playing a lot of teams that are really struggling to get going. Now, to be clear here, the Jaguars have beat a lot of good teams this year. The Buffalo Bills, which, although may end up missing the playoffs, in fact, with their remaining schedule, it looks like they will miss the playoffs, still a tough out. The Pittsburgh Steelers struggle on offense, still a tough out. They just have that weird thing where they just kind of lurk in games. But the Jaguars have played with a lot of leads this year, so Trevor Lawrence hasn't had to throw for 300-plus yards a game. It's been more about controlling the ball and putting teams away. So naturally, he doesn't have as many yards, doesn't look as flashy. Whereas CJ Stroud, the Texans are really relying on him to carry the team. Their defense is okay and has held up fairly well for the most part, but they have to score a lot of points. So CJ Stroud is getting a lot of yardage because they have to keep up with other teams. And often the case is they're in a shootout type of a scenario, and that's not been what the Jaguars have been doing. The Jaguars defense has generated a ton of turnovers this year. So they've been playing with a lot of leads. So comparing Trevor Lawrence's stats and throwing those at him as if they're terrible, which they're not, by the way, it's not really an apples-to-apples comparison. It's totally apples to oranges. The two are on different levels right now. They're working with different levels of talent around them. They're working with different styles of game plans. They're winning games differently than each other. So sure, if I were a GM today and you were giving me only the two options of do you want Trevor Lawrence for the future or CJ Stroud, especially if you keep their current contracts, knowing that CJ Stroud is on his rookie deal and will be for a few more years, yeah, I think I would take CJ Stroud for the future. But it's hard to say how he'll develop. That's a risk, that's a gamble, saying that he's going to take a jump forward. Case in point, Justin Herbert is a quarterback that looked spectacular as a rookie quarterback. He still looks about the same now that he's a veteran. He's still struggling to win games. And I know a lot of people will pile on the head coach, but Justin Herbert struggling to win games. Is CJ Stroud going to develop? That's the key. Will he have a sophomore slump, or will the Texans continue to add pieces? If they do that, if the Texans continue to add pieces, then watch out, Jacksonville, because it's not going to be a situation where only one team is really elite and the rest are just hoping to sneak in as a wild card. Moving forward, if CJ Stroud develops, the Texans add pieces, yeah, there's got to be two really, really good teams in the AFC South. And frankly, if Anthony Richardson develops, that team is also a good roster. So you've got a scenario where the AFC South in just a couple of years may go from being one of the worst divisions in football to legitimately in the conversation for being the best division in football. So, all that to say, Jaguars fans, all of you out there, and I know that's my primary audience, absolutely celebrate. It looks like the AFC South is well in hand at this point, and now the Jaguars are kind of turning their attention towards the bigger fish to fry, looking at possibly making a deep playoff run, even Super Bowl aspirations. All of those things are within the realm of possibility. But then moving forward, this is going to be a fantastic rivalry to watch for years and years to come. I don't see a lot of value in comparing CJ Stroud now to Trevor Lawrence now. They're on completely different trajectories. They're in completely different scenarios. The fun part is they're both great quarterbacks. They're both great young quarterbacks that we're going to get to see for years and years to come. So there's a lot of fantastic football to be played between both of those quarterbacks. I'm sure some matchups will go one way, some will go the other way, but it's a fantastic rivalry. And frankly, I can't wait to see how it develops over the years to come. Hey, if you like that take and you want to see more like it, give this video a like, share, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts on the comparison between Stroud and Lawrence are. Is that a valid comparison? Do you see some flaws? Which one do you like better moving forward? Let me know all your thoughts in those comments down below, and I will see all of you in the next one.